Let's just get into this one. I study why certain brands work, not the marketing tactics, the actual psychology underneath them. And there's no better case study for that than a drink most people admit doesn't even taste that good. Here's how Red Bull sold energy instead of a drink. Red Bull tastes okay. It's expensive, smaller than its competitors, contains less liquid than almost every energy drink on the shelf next to it. So, why is it one of the most valuable beverage companies on earth? Because Red Bull never sold a drink, it sold an identity. Act 1, The Discovery. Meet Dietrich Mateschitz, Austrian marketing executive working for a toothpaste company, all of things. Business trip to Thailand mid 1980s, jet lagged, exhausted. A local recommends a syrupy tonic sold in pharmacies and truck stops called Krating Deng. He drinks it, his jet lag disappears. Now, most people would have just bought a few cans for the flight home. Mortishits didn't ask, "Can I sell this drink?" He asked, "Can I build a global brand?" That's the whole story in one decision. He wasn't looking at a product, he was looking at a feeling, and feelings scale in a way that flavor never does. Act 2, The Impossible Launch. He partnered with the Thai businessman who made the original tonic, reformulated it slightly for Western tastes, carbonated it, and launched it in Austria in 1987. By every conventional rule, it should have failed. Europeans hated the taste. Test panels reportedly rejected it outright. Regulators questioned the drink. The ingredients were unfamiliar. The caffeine content unusually high, and several countries banned it outright for years. Nobody understood what an energy drink even was. The category didn't exist yet. Tiny 250 ml can when every competitor sold in large bottles. Premium price in a category with none. Every rule of consumer packed goods said bigger is better, cheaper wins, taste is king. Red Bull broke all three on purpose. Instead of changing the product to fit the market, they changed the market's perception of what the product was for. Act 3, Selling Identity. Here's the turning point, and it's the smartest move in the whole story. Red Bull stopped trying to compete with Coca Cola. Coca Cola was selling refreshment. Red Bull decided it wasn't in that fight at all. It was competing for aspiration. So they asked a different question, not who's thirsty, instead, who wants to see themselves as relentless. Racers, DJs, entrepreneurs, gamers, athletes, students cramming before exams at 2 a.m. The can stopped being a drink you bought and became a signal you sent to yourself and to whoever saw you holding it. I'm pushing harder than everyone else in this room. That's not a beverage claim, that's an identity claim. And identity is something people will pay a premium for every single time because it isn't really the drink they're buying. It's the story they get to tell about themselves for the next 30 minutes. Act 4, Marketing Nobody Had Seen. Most companies with a new product buy TV ads and hope. Red Bull built culture instead. Formula One, extreme sports, cliff diving, air races, BMX, snowboarding, music festivals in cities most beverage brands wouldn't bother sponsoring. They didn't advertise near the extreme, they funded it owned teams in it, put their name on the events that defined it. Then came the moment that made the whole strategy undeniable. Felix Baumgartner, 2012, a stratospheric balloon, a 128,000-foot ascent, and a jump breaking the sound barrier with nothing but a pressure suit. Millions watched it live. It became one of the most viewed live streams in internet history at the time. Nobody remembers it as an advertisement because it wasn't structured like one. There was no product shot, no tagline at the end, but everybody remembers Red Bull's name attached to it. That's the entire trick. When the content is genuinely remarkable, the brand doesn't need to interrupt it to be remembered. It needs to be the reason the remarkable thing existed in the first place. Act 5, Media Company First. Here's the actual revelation. Buried under all of it, Red Bull isn't a beverage company that happens to do marketing. It's a media company that happens to sell drinks. They own the athletes through sponsorships that function more like talent contracts. They own the events, many of which they created from nothing. Red Bull Cliff Diving, Red Bull Air Race, Red Bull Rampage. They own the cameras, the production crews, the editing. They run their own in-house media studio, Red Bull Media House, producing documentaries and films that have nothing to do with cans at all. They own the stories start to finish. The can simply funds the machine underneath it. Once you see the company that way, the whole strategy stops looking like marketing spend and starts looking like what it actually is: content production with a beverage as the byproduct. Act 6, Scarcity and Premium. Why does Red Bull never discount? Why has it never released a giant bottle the way every soda brand eventually does? Why does it stay premium permanently even decades in? Because premium pricing was never really about profit margin, it's positioning. A cheap Red Bull would collapse the entire identity it spent 30 years building. If it's on sale next to store brand energy drinks, it stops being a signal and starts being a commodity. People don't buy Red Bull because it's affordable, they buy it because of what holding it says. Scarcity and price aren't obstacles to the brand, they're load bearing walls of it. Act 7, The Business Lesson. Here's what this actually teaches you beyond one drink company. The biggest brands in the world don't sell products, they sell a version of the person you get to be. Apple sells creativity, Nike sells ambition, Rolex sells status. Red Bull sells performance, the feeling of being someone who refuses to slow down. Products get remembered for a season, meaning gets purchased for a lifetime. The closing. Red Bull never convinced the world its drink tasted better. It convinced the world that the people who drink it are different. That's a much harder thing to build than a better product, and it's a far more valuable thing to own.